Let's do this thing. So we have a whole curriculum set up. Today, as I mentioned, we're going to talk about one particular topic called tax-favored investing, but there will be subsections. And again, remember that if you had a question, obviously you could ask now. There will be Q&A at the end. Or if you're one of those people that not really comfortable asking questions in the group environment, which is understandable, sign up for one-on-one and we could talk about whatever you want. Okay. All right. So we're going to talk about some law changes. We'll talk about financial foundation. That's going to suit well with your firm, being a real estate firm, that talk about a model that looks very much like a house. It's called micro asset perspective model. Talk about mortgages, would be the most efficient way of financing mortgage. And if we have time, we'll talk about how to put in your IRA, individual retirement account, to work early without reaching a retirement age. Because most people know that it's a retirement account, you can't really touch it before retirement. But there's some exemptions, we'll talk about those. Okay? So let's talk about the changes that happened this year. There's only one absolutely unchanging rule of tax law. Do you know, guys, what that is?
You have to pay them?
It's constantly changing. You have to pay them. So they do work on it as we speak. It's constant work. You will never be out of a job working on tax laws within the country. So what happened in 2023? With Security Act 2.0, the RMDs, recurrent minimum distributions, are being changed. So we have good news there. Last year, they moved from 71.5 to 72. This year, went to 73, meaning if you have the retirement account, you could keep it there all the way till 73 before taking money out. At age 73, they will make you take money out. Used to be a penalty for not taking this 50%. So if you receive a statement from IRS saying, based on our understanding what you have X amount of accounts, these will qualify for this distribution, you would have to take $1,000 out. And you said, well, I don't want to take $1,000 out, because if I do, that will add to my taxable income and I have to pay taxes. Well, if you did not take the $1,000, all the way till last year, they would take half of it as a penalty. So now it went down to 25%. So it's a really good change.
And from what type of retirement accounts is this?
Any qualified accounts like IRS, 401ks, 403bs.
Basically all the above, all retirement accounts, these laws apply.
Unless they're Roth.
Okay.
So talking about Roths, and in the Roth space, there were some good changes. I'm not sure if it applies to this company, but you might have spouses or significant others that work at some institutions where they have 401ks. In the past, you were not able to choose where the match is going. So let's say you decided a Roth 401k versus traditional 401k, and the employer provided a match. So that match would always go into pre-tax side. Now you have a choice. You could pick which side of a taxable offense the money will land in, either pre-tax or after tax. So that's a good change that they made. So next, we're going to talk about tax brackets. As you can see, they are up a bit, adjusted for inflation. They're always being adjusted for inflation every year. A lot of people ask me, so let's say I am making $231,000, so that means that my tax is 32%. No, this is a marginal tax. So effective tax bracket would be much lower, because some of your money is being taxed at 10%, all the way to this amount. Some of your money is being taxed at 12, some of your money is being taxed at 22, some of your money will be taxed at this amount, and then that. So once you reach this, let's say there's a misconception. If I make just a bit more than this number by $1, now all my tax is going to be at 32. No. That whatever dollar went above that number will be taxed at 32. The rest of it will be taxed at this. So the effective tax bracket will be the mean of this. Okay. Yeah, so you have that in your slides.
But still, I like to have one.
Okay, all right, so let's look it up. You have a better copy printed. All right, cool. All right, estate tax exemption. So this for your rich clients. So there's estate tax. It's not a sales tax. It is not income tax. It's estate tax, right? And so there's an exemption. First, $12.9 million per person will be exempt, and if you're married, it's $25 million, which is much nicer than it used to be even decades ago, where the top was 600,000. That did not change for 30, 40 years. Now it's been adjusted to more realistic number. And the top rate is 40%, meaning that anything above that number will be taxed at 40 upon your demise. What goes into that? Everything that you have. In the real estate world, it's not the equity of the house. It's a fair market value. So if you sold someone a $5 million house and they put 10% down, and you said, well, this is probably what we counted towards my estate. No, whole $5 million will be counted towards your estate if you were to die. Life insurance, it's income tax free, but not estate tax free. So all those could be easily be pushing the number in here. So even though you might say, well, only rich people might have that problem, not necessarily. In this area where we live, we're pushing those numbers. Capital gains did not change last year, so they're just adjusting for inflation, as we know. Now, contributions to IRAs and 401ks, that's good to know. And if you're self-employed, you're contractors, you'll be using the SEPs or IRAs, $6,500 till age 50. And if above age 50, you have what's called catch-up provision. You could add additional $1,000. And if you have 401k, 403bs, 457s, if you work for the state, now it's up. The number is $22,500 per year. And the catch-up provision is $7,500 if you're above age 50. Means that if you did not really save up initially, and now you're at your prime years, you're able to make money, and you're age 50 and above, you actually could add more than a typical person would be adding. So you could save up to $30,000 a year if you have that in the budget. Okay. Now, if there is a match coming from an employer, the match does not count towards the limit. So no matter how little, how much the employer provides, that will not be added to that number. Now, the phase outs, going up a bit. So what it means is that not everyone would be able to contribute into Roth IRAs. Now, everyone, if the company provides, be able to provide, participate in a 401k Roth. But if the company doesn't have the employer and you're self-employed, you have to understand that there are limits. So the phase out means that all the way till $138,000, you could put maximum contribution, which is how much? That's a quick test. $6,500. Good. If you make anything above 153, how much can you add? It's a very round number, 0. So anywhere between this and that number is a prorated number. So somewhere in here, be able to put only $3,000. So what happens if you contributed early on in the year and you had a good year? You sold lots of houses. What happened?
Can't contribute anymore?
Well, let's say you contributed $6,500, but your income is above that, and you cannot contribute. You should not contribute to that year, but you already did. Is there a problem? It's a little problem, because IRS says that you should not be able to participate, yet you did. You have a way to fix that before April 15th. You have to pull money out. If you pull money out, then you have to pay the tax on any growth that happened,
Capital gains.
but there's no penalty. But if you wait, then there's a penalty for contributing into a plan that you did not qualify for. Okay? And your tax person, whoever does your taxes, will know that. But you have to tell them, right, so that you contribute. Because sometimes people do not tell their tax people about Roth's contributions because they do not affect your taxable income for the year. It's after-tax investments. But if you contributed into the plan that in a year when you did not qualify, that is a problem.
And this Roth phase out always existed, this law?
Yes,
There was always a cap, so if you start making this much, you can't contribute to a Roth,
correct.
but you can have other retirement accounts?
Correct. Yes, yes. So the other vehicles exist that could act like Roths. They just don't hold Roths. So we could talk about those in the future. All right. So let's talk about financial planning as this. The way I see it, the way I've been practicing, is that it's really easy to follow a roadmap or like a track to run on. And the easiest way to explain or drive the point, I figured a long time ago that if we were to use a model of a house, it just, something comes naturally to people when they think about houses, because they know that in order for them to build a house, they have to have what first? Money, right? Foundation. They have to have blueprints, right? So you have a blueprint, and blueprints you open up, and what do you see on the first page? You see foundation, right? So what do you see next page? You see the structure. Then you see roofing, plumbing, electrical, and then you have a final 3D rendering of your house, right? So the builder comes to a house, to build a house, kind of begins with the end in mind, knows exactly what he or she's going to build. Now, throughout the building process, there will be changes. A lot of people go through that as it's being built, and they actually see it. They walk through the room, so I'd like to move this if it's possible, if engineers will support it. But everything starts with foundation. The stronger the foundation, the taller the building, right? If we have issues with foundation, we're going to have issues with the house. So what goes into foundation? Now, in the regular foundation, we put rebar, rocks, concrete, right? In financial foundation, something that will keep your money secure and safe. So there are some things that we don't even think about because we're so used to have them, but they play a vital role in protecting what we already have. And number one of them is health insurance and long-term care insurance, something that deals with our health. Now, we know that by law now, everyone should have health insurance, right? If you were working for an employer, and some people, they will provide you with health insurance if you work full time. But the care is so expensive, even if the employer is not providing, we still want to buy protection because a little visit to a doctor might cost you a few pennies there, right? And this, that could be for a human, or it could be for a dog. I know that because I have 2 dogs. So long-term care is something different. Most of us younger people would probably not have enough information what it is, or they would not think that it will apply to them. Long-term care, by definition, long-term care, there's 6 daily activities that everyone is making, like moving, toileting, bathing, dressing, eating, showering. If you cannot perform 2 out of 6, you will qualify for the benefit. So where that could come in your life? Well, it could be part of result of an accident, for instance. You went to hospital, got stitched up, got recovered, but still, as a result, you need help. Or some sickness happened. So because of that, you might need to have that type of a plan. The care associated with, the cost associated with care is very expensive. If you Google how much long-term care services would cost in this area, you'll be surprised. For a skilled nursing facility, it might be like $130,000 a year. Let's marinate for a minute. A year. What's the average stay in that type of a state? 5 years. Now, some people stay longer. Let's say you get an Alzheimer's disease. Even middle-aged people get that. You might be alive for the next 20, 30 years, but still require assistance. Now, some people say, well, we have families that will take care of us. That's great. In our Slavic community, Russian, Ukrainian community, a lot of our parents or siblings take care of family members, but it's hard to do 24/7. They could do one shift, but 2 shifts or 3 shifts a day, that's hard. I know firsthand because my parents taking care of my grandma, who is 100 years old. She's still alive. And it's not easy. She's been bedridden for 3 years, I think, 4 years. So it's a challenge. So think about that. We could spend more time one-on-one to talk about the pricing for different people and the different versions of it. Yes?
And is long-term care included in most life policies?
Nope.
Is that an add-on?
It could be an add-on to a new policy, but it's still a loan policy. It's like auto insurance policy.
Sure.
Emergency savings. Now, this little thing, most people neglect to pay attention to. If you take any books on personal finance, they will tell you that you should keep around 3, 4, 5 months, maybe 6 months of your expenses set aside for emergencies. Because if you have a slow season in sales, or you decide to move, relocate, or the car broke down, a dog got sick, and a bunch of stuff can happen, life happens, then in absence of cash that you have, you'll get yourself then in debt. And it doesn't really make sense to pay 20% to a credit card and try to save in an investment account earning 6, 7, 8, 10%. You're kind of going backwards, right? So emergency savings are really important, and obviously not to have consumer debt. And talking about that, there's a good debt and there's bad debt, right? So mortgages, that would be considered not so bad debt, right? You get to deduct that, but going on vacation using credit cards and pay 20%, that's not a good debt. And paying for a car, that's not a good debt, right? Auto insurance, homeowners insurance. I'll talk about the space that Alex works in. We know that by law you have to have that, right? And the mortgage company might require you to have the coverage.
But renters insurance?
Yeah, that's not be under homeowners insurance, renters insurance, so it's a property. So property and casualty. Now, talking about insurance, and Alex could probably comment more on it. What I've experienced in the past, having records of what you have will really, really help. Because adjusters do not work for you. The adjusters work for the insurance company. And depending on strength of the company, ratings of the company, sometimes it's easy to talk to them, sometimes not so much, right? And so, if you do have insurance on your property, make sure you have good pictures of your properties. Right? Just take a camera right now, walk around the house, take pictures, store it on the cloud somewhere. Because if there's a fire theft, it's easier to prove what you have using the pictures versus saying, yeah, I had a family rug and it worth so much, or I had painting, or I had this and that. Easier to prove. I know in my situation, I had a bunch of tools stolen out of my truck. So having pictures, because I just received it as a gift from my father-in-law that died, those years ago. It was good. I just showed it, and the insurance company paid, no problem. Talking about umbrella liability is next, which normally the insurance agents don't talk about that, unfortunately. Very few property and casualty insurance agents that I know talk about umbrella liability. Either they don't understand or they don't want to talk about it because the premium is so little. It's not very interesting topic to talk about. But in my practice, I've seen people where their assets were frozen. They could not do anything because they were in a lawsuit. And lawsuits sometimes run very, very long. So what umbrella liability is, it basically extends the liability of regular coverage that you have. So if you have a coverage of 100 per person, 300 per occurrence, you get an accident, it's your fault. You have 100,000 backup. But what if the person who you hit now claims that he or she cannot work anymore? They were 30 or 40 years old, making 100,000 a year. They could say, well, that's $2-3 million of my future income that I can't really make. So what's that? The person says, okay, 100,000, that's fine. That's all you had. That's all you had. most likely they will hire an attorney, and the attorney will start harassing you and suing you civilly. And it's not what they're going to take that you already have. They might take what you will have. It's called garnishment of wages. So now your retirement plan just became somebody else's retirement plan. So how expensive is umbrella liability? $1 million might cost you $20, $25. Very inexpensive.
300
Yeah. Add another $1 million, that's another $5. So I might be off it by a couple dollars. But
First million is always the most expensive.
yes, it's very little. But now what happens, you have this big, I like to call it a chocolate chip cookie for attorneys to go after. Because how do they get paid? Once there's a settlement, they get like 40% of it, right? So if they see a $2 million umbrella policy, they could sue and leave you alone. They're going to go for that because they're going to get paid, and they will convince the client this is a good thing. And you basically diverted the fire. All right, charitable contributions. I feel that there's law of the farm. Tithing, or just give first, it always comes back. For those people who are charitably inclined and they want to provide funds towards like college endowments, that's how they've been set up. You need to create trusts where you could put, let's say, life insurance inside the trust. Upon your demise, the funds will come into. Or if you're donating regularly, you have a place where the money will be coming from, like from a rental place. You want to make sure that even when you die, the organization that you really have think passionately about will be funded with those resources. So that's why you create those trusts. And lastly, that's probably like an engine of the, if you're not alive, nothing works, right? So we have to pay attention to disability insurance and life insurance. So disability insurance is different than long-term care insurance. Long-term care, if you cannot perform 2 out of 6 daily activities. Disability, if you cannot perform your own work. So being a realtor, so what the biggest instrument that you have, tool at your disposal?
Alexa.
Your voice, right? If you can't talk, you cannot be really effective with your clients. So if you lost your voice, you could be considered disabled in this space. Now, you could dig dishes, you could do other things. So long-term care will not kick in, but disability policy will kick in. All you could get is 2/3 of your total income. You have to provide tax statements, tax documents when you apply for insurance. They have different versions like of that. Typically, you have selection of buying 2, 5 years, or till age 65. That's the length of benefit. And some of them might have dividends available. Some of them might have a return of premium if you were to die. I mean, different options. But as a rule, people want to make sure that at least a period of time, like 5 years, be taken care of, so you could readjust your life. And you could move out of state, maybe go to Nebraska somewhere, less expensive than California. Last thing is life insurance. Well, life insurance is like 31 flavors of ice cream. That's how many types of life insurance out there. There's term insurance that provides just protection. It's like auto insurance. There's permanent, like whole life, universal life, or variable universal life. They're all different. None of them are good or bad. They're just different. They're designed to do a certain job. Unfortunately, insurance agents who just have at their disposal one product, they're going to walk around telling everybody that that's the best thing since sliced bread, and everybody else is bad, and they're telling you not the truth, they're lying, but we are telling you the truth. We're the evangelists of that. The truth is, it's like medicine. When you go to pharmacy, there's so many different versions of it. It depends if you're allergic to something or not, and depending on what you're trying to accomplish. These are different types of products. Now, there's one commonality of all of this, and that is that you only could get these when you don't need them. Just think about it. When you need them, any of these, you can't get them. If you get an auto accident, can you get an auto insurance? You could call Alex, say, hey Alex, let's buy insurance and date it yesterday, with yesterday's date. And Alex says, nope, I want to keep my broker's license. That's not gonna happen, right? So, you only get these things when you don't really need them. You need to want them beforehand and understanding how they work. Okay? All right, so moving on. Building a house, that's the next page in our blueprint. And we call it macro asset perspective. And basically, if you talk to anyone, you could talk to a realtor, an attorney, your mechanic, they will tell, all of them will tell you, don't put all your eggs on one basket. We know that from the school grade, right? But you could separate your investment into safe place, moderately aggressive place, and aggressive place. 3 major areas of investment. And if you put a line right across it, what's on top of the graph, what we like to call it paper assets. Paper assets are those ones that fluctuate in the marketplace. They have cyclical growth. And what's the bottom? Something is stable, that does not fluctuate with time. And so over time, what we want to do is look at our ratios. Some people might say, if I'm 20 years old, I'll put 20% of my safe money in safe place, right? And the rest of my money will put up for growth in cyclical growth. And if I'm 80 years old, I'll put 80% of my money in safe place and 20% in aggressive place. But over time, the goal is take money from cyclical places and put in a real safe place. So change paper money into real money area. So we know this. A lot of people see a financial pyramid. You go to any financial institution, go across the street to Bank of America. They'll give you that brochure that will have a financial pyramid, risk-reward model. Very simple approach. What we're going to talk about today is not just that. We're going to talk about not just vertical allocation, but also horizontal allocation. That's why we have 6 boxes versus 3 boxes. And that is pre-tax and after-tax. When I talk about pre-tax, what do I mean? Anybody could give me an example of a pre-tax plan of investment? We talked about it a little bit earlier.
Roth.
That's after-tax. 401k, right? IRAs. Any pension plans that have that qualifying title as a pension will be called pre-tax. Now, and over the years, people like myself been telling people like you guys, let's do this. It's always good to invest in pre-tax. And why? Because, younger people might not even know the saying. People that have been around for a while, they might still remember the phrase.
Well, I'm old, so I think I know a little bit. Pre-tax, so basically it's like before any taxes are taken out of your gross income.
Mm-hmm. So if you're making 100, you put 10,000 into a pension plan. Now, on paper, you're making 90, so you can tax on 90. Right? But why is that a good idea? Why were you encouraged to do so?
Because you don't pay taxes on it.
Yeah, so that year you will not pay taxes. But eventually we save money so we can do what? We spend it.
Well, you basically have a capital gain on this money that you didn't pay.
That's a short-term advantage, but there's a long-term advantage of that. So I'm gonna start the phrase, and if you heard that phrase, you probably won't be able to finish it for me. Let's defer paying taxes when we in the high earning years. So when we retire, we pull money out and we'll be in what?
Pay taxes less because of.
In the low income tax bracket. So that's the whole idea. Let's avoid paying taxes now while we're in high earning years and paying high taxes. Avoid, retire, pull money out, pay less taxes because we're in a different bracket.
Question, so what if the person passed away before they money and it's gonna go to his.
Beneficiaries, and that creates a beneficiary
Are
IRA.
they gonna be taxed?
It's the same way. On their income tax bracket, they just removed that restriction to 59.5, which is really nice. So the reason why that these plans actually came in existence in the early 80s is that the tax laws were very different. Remember when we talked about the tax laws changes earlier in the presentation? I showed you 7 tax brackets. The top tax bracket was how much? Did anybody pay attention? 37. It's in your slides, you can see. So the top bracket today is 37. In early 80s, guess what the top bracket was? 70. And we had 15 income tax brackets. So what does it mean? We still have the same space occupied with more brackets, so they close the position. So if, let's say, we take someone with 100,000 of income. Well, at that time, a person who makes 100,000 would be fitting 59, in the bracket of 59%. Pretty high. So if I want to avoid in the 80s paying taxes at 59, and today I pull money out, and let's say my income today is by 20% less, which most people want to retire at least on 80% of their income, so to live comfortably. So today, if I'm making 80,000, my exposure to taxes is 22%. So I avoided 59. I put money into the pension plan. Today I retire, pull money out, I pay only 22. Is that a good plan? Yeah, plan worked exactly the way it was advertised. Now, but what happened today? Do we have 7 tax laws? No. So today, if you make it 100 and you drop to 80, how many brackets do you go down? It's an easy question. No easy answer. It's a round number. 0. It's 0. We have 7 brackets occupying the same space, but they're spread out really wide. Now, in order for you to go from bracket to bracket, you need to cut your income by half. Not a lot of people are comfortable living on half, right? So, because again, the tax laws are different. Today's top bracket is only 37. So what does it mean? Does this mean that IRAs and 401ks are bad plans? It does not. It means that we have to be very strategic how we pull money out to, again, receive the same benefit where we're avoiding paying taxes at a high level of taxes and pull out at low. Okay? That's why we're going back to the model of pre-tax and after-tax. So let's say we wanted to have that 80,000 of income that I was talking about. And if we pull money out today, we pay taxes on all of it, and everything is being taxed based on today's laws at 20%. What's going to be the future? I don't know, maybe 35 again, maybe more, as tax laws change. But what if we be a little strategic? What if we only take half, 40,000? Now, if we take 40,000, well, now from 100 to 80 to 40, that takes you down to 12%. That's nice, but there's a problem. So only 40,000. We want to have 80,000, but we were smart. We invested after tax, and now we have another 40,000, but we invested in tax-free accounts. So now how much taxes we're paying out of that distribution? 0. So any mathematicians in the room, what's the average between 12 and 0? 6%. So now what happened? We changed from 22 to 6, like 59 to 22, kind of same idea. And all we have to do is kind of divide where the money is coming from. So that's the strategy. So let's talk about tactics. How do we go about it? On the pre-tax side, most people, if they invest in IRAs or 401ks, will have a portfolio of funds to invest in. And the booklet that comes with the plan will encourage you to invest some in moderate aggressive, and obviously some in conservative. The booklet was designed with the understanding that that's the only plan that you would have. Most people have also real estate holdings, have Roth accounts, insurance accounts, stock accounts, right? So even though the booklet might say go from safe to aggressive, it depends on your risk tolerance, I would encourage you to forget that for a second and invest only in aggressive place above the line. Here's the reason. What do we get in safe place? We get safety. We also get accessibility. So safety, where it's not fluctuating cyclically. Accessibility, it's like a bank, right? And if we're making little money, because we have to make little 3-4%, but we pay taxes on top of it, we're netting less. So we want to see if there's a way not to pay taxes, be invested in tax-free vehicles. So those kind of prerequisites for safe investment to be accessible, be there, not losing in value, and not to pay taxes. Well, if we overlay that against your 401k and IRA plans with the rules of distribution, then we start questioning, can we really have these benefits within 401ks? 401k or IRA plans, upon distribution, will tax you. So even though you might be able to find somehow tax-free investments, like tax-free municipal bonds inside 401k, which will be bad, somebody did a bad job because it will not work, because you pay taxes based not on investment, based on the plan. And plan will nullify the tax-free status of tax-free investment. So everything that comes out of IRAs or 401ks will be taxed. So tax-free will not really work within a 401k. Liquidity. How many of you have IRAs or 401ks? Okay. Good. Do you guys have an ATM card to those plans? They're not liquid, right? It's not designed to be liquid. So liquidity is not really applicable. Now, safety. Do we need safety? Yeah, we need safety. All of us need some safety. But this safety is different safety. This safety is this. I put money in today. Tomorrow, money's there. I'm going to take it out. But with IRAs or 401ks, is that the case? No. We want to make sure that we have long-term safety. That means over time, what we put in will be equivalent to money in the future, because there's such thing as inflation. So making 2%, 3%, 4% might not really benefiting us, even though it's safe on paper, but value goes down every year. We need to make sure that our money will keep up with inflation. So therefore, all our choices within pre-tax accounts should be invested aggressively, unless you bought 5 years before retirement, you already put your lending gear down, and so then yes, then we need to be moderately aggressive and so on. But initially, especially looking at this young crowd, everything should be invested aggressively. But that kind of goes against the model that some money should be in safe, some in aggressive place, everything in between. But now, all those safety, liquidity, and tax advantage benefits that we want to have within below the line, that were not really useful on the pre-tax side, will have a tremendous value on the after-tax side. So now we could see that the key box for after-tax will be here. Pre-tax key box will be upper left corner. So municipal bonds, life insurance, cash value life insurance that accumulates values, Roth IRAs could play a good part in this. Although it might earn you 3, 4, 5%, just because you don't pay taxes. It might be equivalent to 7, 8%, depending what your income is. That is not a bad rate of return for safe investment. Now, can you make more? Yes, but we're not comparing trucks and sports car, right? This is a truck. Now, once we're finished with this, we might start looking and saying, well, perhaps Roth IRA will move up in here, because Roth IRA is not very liquid. After 5 years being invested, you could take the principal out, but again, designed for retirement. So we might want to put Roth IRA in equities, buying mutual funds, ETFs, and maybe even stocks. So other things that might go there, like stock market accounts, mutual funds, individual stocks, real estate. Now, depending who you talk to, some people say real estate is very stable, but you guys in the business, you know that it has cycles. It goes up, it goes down. If it was only going up, everybody just buy that, right? There's no perfect investment that everybody should have, because then you and I will not have businesses. People just be lining up buying that particular product, right? So everything that you could see in here that fluctuates in value, sitting in the upper right corner, but proportionally should be based on, again, your age. So when you look at this plan, let's say, okay, so we want to have, let's say, this example, 50-50, 50% above the line and 50% below the line. That's our goal. And let's say market start fluctuating. Market goes up, and now what you see is you have 60% of your money sitting in here and 40% here. So what do? We buy more, right? It's doing well, let's buy more. What Warren Buffett said, buy low, sell high, right? When people say, how do we adjust our portfolios? Stop chasing rates of return. Rates of return will follow is a byproduct of a process that you set up. And the process lets you, let's say you set up the process of, I want to have 50-50 no matter what. So market went up, you're adjusting back to 50-50, and what it does, it sells high automatically because you're adjusting the ratio and puts money into safe place. But we also know that market not only goes up, it also goes down, right? So if it goes down, and now you have the other picture, 60-40, you could panic and say, what do I do? I'm losing value. Or you could say, well, it's a sale. Now I could take money out of safe investment and put it in aggressiveness. So I'm adjusting the ratio. And as a result, you're buying low. Same thing with real estate. You bought something for $500,000, it went down to $400,000. So what happened? Did you lose $100,000? If you want to sell it, but other than that, you still have the same house. Or let's say you buy it at 5 and now it's 6. So did someone just write you a check for $100,000? No. It's only if you sell it, then you capitalize the gain. Until then, it's just paper growth, right? Now, so that's vertically. Now, horizontally, same approach. So you have, let's say you have 50-50 goal. And most people would probably benefit from having 50-50 approach. But again, depending on your age, sometimes if you're younger and you see that a lot of working years left, and your income keeps going up, you are already in your lowest income tax bracket in your life because you're going to make more in the future, then maybe you're tilting more towards right, make more sense to you. But again, 50-50 might be the average approach for most people out there. Now, so if we want to have 50-50 and 50-50, then we split something like this. We adjust the ratios, and we just watch how the market goes. Now, if I'm 25 years old and I want to have 25% here and 75 there, well, I'm going to adjust something like this. So when I step back, what I see is 75% of my money invested in fluctuating markets, which we already described, in 25 in conservative. As I get older, I'm adjusting, or as market changes, I'm adjusting. Now, I'm not going to do that on a daily basis because that will drive me bananas. But maybe every quarter or so might be a good thing to take a look and see if the pendulum's swung more than 10 points one way or the other. I will do the adjustment. How am I doing for time so far? We all good? Okay. All right. So let's talk about mortgages. Who likes to pay mortgages? So I'm going to give you an example how we see money in mortgages. Now, I'm going to use this example, which you're going to, don't laugh me out of the room. I'm going to use 4% as an example. It doesn't matter what percent I'm going to use. I'm going to drive a point. So I'm going to put 7 or 2, but we know that in a normal economy, 4% is a good number, right? 4 or 5%. Now, when I came to the United States in 1987, guess what was the mortgage rate at that time?
12, 15.
18.
Wow.
CDs paid 15%. So we lived in Baltimore, Maryland. We came there for 7 months before moving to California. My dad went to Spilka, Ukraine Spilka. Crazy did. And as Ukrainian to Ukrainian, I guess they offered us 17. So that was the world, right? So again, it doesn't really matter much. In fact, the higher, then it's the easiest to make a point. So I'm going to use how to fund a 400,000 note. Now, what's the most typical way of funding it? And I already put that answer up. It's a 30-year fix, right? That's the most typical, most common way of financing a note. So when we get this mortgage, let's say we want to pay with 4%, the payment is 1910. And what happens after 30 years? We pay the mortgage off, right? So we pay the principal back. Along with principal, what else do we pay?
Interest.
A little interest, right? So you look at that, it's like more than half the house. All right, so what's the second most popular way of financing a note? 15-year mortgage, right? So if you have extra money and you want to take a 15-year note, so what happens? In 15 years, you'll pay that off, right? But now, how much interest do you pay? Less or more? Less. You pay less interest. So you look at that, no, I like it. I pay less interest. Okay? So, are there any other ways of paying it? I'm not talking like 5-1 arm. Have you heard of people paying extra towards the mortgage every other month, right? Every other week? So, flexible. We take a 30-year mortgage, but we pay on the schedule of 15 years. So what will happen? Well, let's say the interest is the same. I know 15-year mortgage will be like half a point less, but let's pretend it's the same. In 15 years, 30-year mortgage with payments of 15-year schedule will act like a 15-year mortgage, right? How much interest now you will pay? Less or more? It's a trick question. It's the same. Because it acts like a 15-year mortgage, right? So, arguably, this is better than that. Why is that? How many of you remember 2008? How many of you were in the business 2008? So, if you come in hard times because of the economy or whatnot, and you stuck to this payment, can you revert to this?
No.
You could for a while. Then you get a knock on the door. And a little piece of paper be posted on your door. Right? But if you have this, you're making this payment. Can you revert to that? No problem. So flexibility is the key. Now, if you have this payment towards that mortgage, what does the bank do with the extra money?
Invest.
That's a cool idea. Why don't we do that? So what if we take a 30-year mortgage, pay as little as we must, take the difference, and we become the bank? Is that possible? Okay, so let's take a look at the graph. So this is live year mortgage. The beginning of it is day 1, year 1. Last one is day 31, year 30, right? So if we were to take a look, and most people say that we understand that initially most of 1910 will be what, principal or interest? Interest. And then last day, last payment, most of it will be what? Most principal, right? So logical people will connect two dots, and we'll have this amortization, right? Is that a right amortization graph? The right amortization graph is this, it's a bell curve. That's why, for those of us who have mortgages, first 5-10 years you're paying into mortgage and you're like, I'm not paying down the debt. What's going on? Because it consists mostly of interest initially. And then in later years, you pay off the debt sooner. All right? So, now that we know that one was 280, the other one was 130 as of interest, we want to have a not 30-year mortgage, we want 15-year mortgage, right? So we want to cut off the interest, because all this is interest. We don't want that. This is the principal. Okay. Now, we don't like to pay interest, right? But how many of you have mortgages? By show of hands. 3, 4, 5 people, 6 people. We don't like to pay interest, but in January we're looking for one particular paper from the bank. What is that?
Taxes. And money.
The form that shows how much interest we pay.
Oh.
Why? What do we need that for?
We can take advantage for the tax.
Deduction. We want the tax deduction. So
Maybe.
we don't want to pay, maybe, we don't want to pay interest, but yet we want to pay interest. How can we have both? Okay, how can we have a cake and eat it too? Well, if you want to take, not this curve, but this curve, and we want to pay off our debt in 15 years, if we want to take this curve, the deductions that come and the government is giving to us, we say, no, we don't want that deduction. But if we take this curve, we become the bank. And we take that $1,000 and we invest somewhere. Now, what's the time frame now for investments? 15 years, right? What was the mortgage interest in this example? 4%. That's before deduction. If you take deduction, how much is that? Maybe 3, right? So if I come to you and say, I have a great investment opportunity. You invest for 15 years, you make 3%. You're like, I think I could do better than that. What I'm going with that, it's not that hard to make over 15 years what the bank is giving you as a security. Because by overpaying the mortgage, you get something out of it. You get security. You know that that will happen for sure. If you become the bank, you need to make sure that you make at least 3% in this example, right? Net, to compete with the bank. And once you come to here, in 15 years, use this curve and already pay the house off. It has a pink slip, right? Deed of the house. But you don't. But you have something else. You have cash. So who's in the better position? Person with the paid up house paper, or person who has cash that could pay off the house at that day, on that day? Cash is king. Because why again? 2008. If this happened to be 2008, the house got paid off, but valued half as much. The house did not get paid, but it has enough cash to buy 3 houses at that time. Right? So flexibility is a key, but discipline is also something that has to be considered. Not a lot of people are disciplined enough to save regularly. So if you're one of those people, sign up for auto investment plan. So it automatically takes from your paycheck before you see it. That's how 401ks became so popular, not just because of the performance. Performance is the same. It's just because out of sight, out of mind. Once you set up, it goes, you don't see it, you kind of get used to that investment. So, moving on, back to the mortgage. Obviously, as you're going through, you have to consider the budget, but also consider the flexibility and deductibility of accounts. What could be used to deduct, and banks do take money in lump sums as well, not just monthly payments. So if you save aside and bring back all at once, they will take it. They'll take anything. Your firstborn son, if you give it to them, right? All right. So we are almost there. I'm gonna show you how to, if you guys are interested, how to use your IRA in your young ages and not to pay penalties to IRS. You want to know how?
Yes.
Yeah, everybody. Sit me down. All right, so let's talk about IRAs. First, you have to have an IRA. It has to be yours. You have to have a house that has equity in it. So here's an example how this might work. It basically goes into the fact that everything that you do needs to be coordinated and interrelated with everything else that you do. Like, again, a blueprint to a house. You can't build that house without actually having all the pages, because if you build separately roof rafters without knowing the size of the house, and you start building from foundation up, then they might not even connect, right? So you need to know the big picture. Same thing in here. So here's gonna give you a hypothetical story. You meet someone for coffee, your old friend, and say, hey, you would not believe we just created something great. We're still in the garage, but we're gonna go public soon, meaning we're gonna be just investing in certain things, because what we have, the technology, it's a new Google. All you have to do is just give out $100,000 and you'll be bottom floor. We heard those stories, and most of them are fake. But let's say this was not a fake example. You got so excited. You said, okay, but all I have is my IRA money. I'm young, I can't really take money out. Plus I pay taxes, I don't really know. But you have a house and there's an equity. All right, so you said, okay, I'll do that. I'll take equity out of the house, 100,000. All right, so I'm going to use the same interest rate. Again, I know right now equity might be 8 or 10%, but again, it's temporal, right? So once you take 100,000, banks kind of particular about having you paying them back on the schedule. So let's say you took a 15-year schedule, okay? So 100,000, 4%, 15-year schedule gives you this monthly payment of $740. You like that you invested, but you don't like that it created a budget issue with your family that you didn't plan. You go to your IRA and say, well, what do I do with it? There's 100,000, I could have used it, but I'm young, too young, I can't really use it. There's a real known rule out there, you could Google it. It says section 72T, it's an exemption. An exemption says that you could pull money out early, no penalties, if you take money on the regular schedule. If you take it on a regular schedule, then you don't pay penalties. How many people knew that? Right? Can you do it with 401k? No. You could do it with all 401k rolled into an IRA, then you could do it, but not from 401k. So, using this same thing, if we take a regular schedule, $740 out of the account, to pay the $740 for the mortgage company, now we're gonna close the loop. Your IRA money comes out. Do you have to pay taxes on it? Yes, but no penalty. You get money out of here, you get interest that you pay. Is that a deductible event? Most likely. So the deductibility here washes the tax consequence over there, at least for a while, because again, the bell curve, remember? Initially, most of it will be covered. Later on in life, it will be a taxable event. But at least you're able to participate with the investment world, taking money out. Now, if we do this in 15 years, what happens? At 4% rate of return, if we're using the same as the interest, your account goes down to 0, because it's same math, right? But what if you make 8% return? Well, in 15 years, not only you paid 100,000, you still have a balance of 74,000, right? So, what will the future rate of return would be? I don't know, might be 0. If it's 0, then you'll be gone in 11 years. But that's consistently, next 11 years, you have 0 rate of return, which is not likely, and you should not be in investment that consistently give you 0 rate of return for so long. That should be a red flag early on, right? So that's it. Again, the point of this conversation was that we need to pay attention to everything else that's going on around you and kind of coordinate and integrate all your decisions into one strategic plan.